Hey everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin, and today I'm going over my top 5 hot takes for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. I've done videos like this in the past where I've done my hot takes, but they were more league-centric, and I made an attempt in every one of those to include at least one hot take about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this year I decided just to separate them, so today is my top 5 hot takes about the Leafs, and I'll come out with another video later on about the rest of the league. But here we go. Top 5 hot takes about the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. Hot take number 1. Now this I had written down long ago, so it has no relation to his performance in the preseason game against the Ottawa Senators, where he played very well. But I think that Calle Jarnkrok will have more points this year than Alex Kerfoot did last year. Alex Kerfoot is coming off of a career-high 51 points with the Leafs last year, and Calle Jarnkrok's career high is only 35. So it is maybe a bit of a stretch to think that he could have that much of a boost this year, but I do think it's possible, and I think that he'll be put in every position to be able to succeed and get to that point. The main reason why I make the comparison between those two players in particular is because they're very similar. Both Jarnkrok and Kerfoot are kind of that Swiss Army knife kind of player where they can slot in anywhere in the lineup, whether that's first line or fourth line, all situations, power play or penalty kill, multiple wings, and they're very, very versatile pieces. So very similar in that regard. And Kerfoot has had opportunities in the top 6 before, but has never been able to fully grasp a full-time role in the top 6. And Jarnkrok might not be able to do that either, but being a right-handed shot, being someone new to the team, and being able to play both wings, he's got a lot of potential to either start off in that top 6 role, maybe with Tavares and Nylander, or come time in the regular season when we're bound to face some injuries on either the right wing or the left wing, Calle Jarnkrok is set up to be able to jump into the top 6 role. Not to mention the fact that he's got a lot of potential and is yet to play for a fully offensive team. He's coming from most of his career being in the Nashville area, and that's not an offensive team whatsoever. That's more of a defensive structure. So he is going to be put up in major areas of success this year to be able to actually produce offensively, let alone his defensive role. And if he does stay on that third line, I do see our third line being very productive this year and leaned on a lot more heavily for offensive roles than the last year's Leafs third line. So again, Calle Jarnkrok will complete this season with over 51 points, beating Alex Kerfoot's record from last year. Hot take number 2. This one pains me to say, but I will say that Nick Robertson will get traded from the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. The reason I say it is because he's had some injury problems in the past and hasn't been able to crack the roster so far, and maybe he is able to do that this year, but if he doesn't, at some point you do need to start considering what you're going to do with this asset given the current timeline of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that's the important thing to keep in mind here. I'm not saying that we're giving up on Robertson as an elite prospect, but more so, what is the objective of this season for the Toronto Maple Leafs? It's do or die at this point. The Leafs need to be able to get through a playoff round and have some postseason success, and that means at the trade deadline, they have to be able to address the team, assess where they are, look at what's needed, and maybe spend some valuable assets in a trade to get a piece to put them over the hump in the playoffs. And I do see Nick Robertson as being one of the highest valued piece on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't necessarily see him being a guaranteed fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs on the left wing. This year, the Leafs have extreme depth, more depth on the left wing side than they've had in years past. So I do see it as being very difficult for him to actually grab a full-time spot in the NHL. Now, like I said, it is entirely possible. He's a great young player with a lot of offensive ability, but that could be the perfect piece that is included in a trade deadline deal. And I do think that this year it is bound to happen. Nick Robertson gets traded from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hot take number 3. Justin Holl will have a bounce back season. Now, I don't have any statistics written down to quantify that, but it was clear last year he was a liability on the ice, and him alongside of Jake Muzzin, they did not combine for a very good duo at all. But the year before that, Justin Holl was sneaky important for the Leafs, and even last year he was an incredibly valuable penalty killer for the team. And we have to keep in mind as well, he's one of only one or a few right-handed defensemen on this entire team. People are calling for him to be traded, It's not going to happen because you need to have someone on your defensive unit that is right-handed, and the Leafs just don't have many options with Timothy Liljegren being out for the beginning of the season here. So Justin Holl would be relied on heavily, and you never know, year in and year out, going into a training camp, going into a new season, it's a clean slate. You don't know how people will react. I think Justin Holl went into last year, started off slow, and it just kind of snowballed from there. This year, I think that he starts off a little bit more fresh, a little bit of a different mindset, and has a much, much better season with the Leafs and will be a valuable piece on their defensive end, considering, like I said, he's that one right-handed defenseman that will kill penalties. He'll be relied on in a defensive role. Hopefully, he'll be split up from Jake Muzzin. They did not combine for a good defensive pairing last year. He looked really good, actually, with Mark Giordano in the preseason game. So we'll see where he slots in, but he'll have a bounce-back season this year. Hot take number 4, the biggest area of contention so far this offseason with the Leafs is the goaltending, and I actually have a lot of faith in them. Matt Murray has proven himself not only in the regular season but the playoffs, and Ilya Samsonov has a lot of potential. He's a young person who's on an expiring restricted free agent deal. He's going to want to play his heart out and get a new contract, and if either of them get down, we do have Erik Källgren, who proved last year that he is capable of stepping into the NHL. So I think that as a team, the Toronto Maple Leafs will have a plus 910 save percentage, which would be the first time since the 2020-2021 season where we had Frederik Andersen and Jack Campbell as our goaltending duo. And if the Leafs get goaltending at that rate, well, that would be a huge improvement from last year, even though people were so sad to see Jack Campbell leave. The Leafs had an under 900 save percentage for the entire season last year. Just not good enough, and yet they still finished 4th in the entire NHL. So I actually think that the Leafs goaltending situation will be an improvement from last year. They will get above a 910 save percentage as a team. Whoever's in the net, they will combine for that by the end of the year, and the Leafs will be very, very well off as a result of that. Which leads into my final point number 5. The Toronto Maple Leafs will get through a playoff round this year. I did make that prediction last year as well, but this year I think that it's just bound to happen at some point. We've been waiting for it this year. It's the year. It's going to happen. We've got goalies that have playoff experience. The Leafs just as a team played so well against Tampa Bay. They exercised those demons. The team knows that they can perform in the playoffs now. It's just a matter of getting it done in a Game 7 or hopefully earlier than that. And with the team that they've got built up this year, the forward group is equally as strong as they were in the past, but the depth that they added this year, not only the depth, but the young depth, the skilled depth, the speedy depth. And then on the defensive unit, we've got pieces that are still developing and getting better every single year. I just think that this Leafs team is going to be even better than they were last year, at least when it matters most, and they'll get through a playoff round for the first time since 2004. So what do you think? Some of those are hotter takes than others. What are your hot takes for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year? Like I said, I'll be coming out with another video for hot takes for the rest of the NHL, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, it's preseason hockey. The Leafs are back. It's training camp, and I can't wait. We'll see how many of these come to fruition this year. Thanks for watching.